Hello. Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me. Um, Let me make sure. Just let me know if you can't hear me because it means that my mic isn't set to the right mic. I hope that it has. I've made it so it is, but hopefully it's working. People in the chat, if you're here, just let me know that you can hear me. Hello. Hi, Tony. Can you hear me? Or am I muted? Because they kept trying to change my mic back to my USB one. Just make sure I'm clear. Yeah. So I'm like on my Yeti mic, hopefully. You can all hear me. Hi, Pablo. Okay. It's good. It's good. So I just wanted to do kind of a quick hangout, really. Just sort of enjoyed having the thing. Zach with the Zach Adamson from the show's doing a bit of a build of it's Saturday Night Live here from England. So I just wanted to do a kind of quick sort of hangout. Really, I enjoyed doing that one we did when I did the announcement. It was very sort of impromptu. How do you? And obviously, since I can't really put any other content out there right now other than what I'm going to talk about, I just wanted to sort of hang out and do sort of a Q&A thing. So, like, I'm just going to keep rambling unless you guys in the chat post questions to you. Like the idea of a Q&A is any questions. I can talk about whatever. Just going to have a bit of fun, really. I've got red wine here. I swear I said this to somebody at work the other day, I swear I'm getting gayer as I get older. Like, for those who don't know, I'm bisexual myself. But it's become a thing where as I've got older, I've just leaned more into that. People have always called me slightly camp, but I'm not neat enough to be fully gay, that's for sure. Like I like keeping things tidy, but I'm definitely not neat enough for that. Okay. So yeah, if people have any questions for me, just go ahead and type them in the chat. Hi Pablo. I said hello to you already. But yeah, then I'll go ahead and answer them. Good to know. Hi, by the way, Tetsuya. Tell me I'm saying that right, or if you prefer another name, Tetsuya. Hey BJ. How is everybody? So yeah, just a general thing, just to put it out there. Obviously, nothing's changed with the strike. I still can't power X-Men or Power Rangers or anything. But I have basically in the last week decided. Originally, when I did the last live stream, I was like, well, what am I going to do in the meantime? I could just write scripts. I could just edit the episodes that I've got. Get a backlog. That's what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. But I want to still put stuff out there, especially with the Patreon and everything else. I still want to contribute. So basically, came to my realization that the only thing that is stopping us from putting stuff out right now is the IP and the copyrights. So basically, what we've decided is I'm going to do an original show, a completely original show, and use some of the talent pool, or the network that I've created from the shows that I've got to cast with. I think we've got some incredible actors, and nothing is stopping all of them from being in it, because it's not an IP. We're not promoting anything. It kind of came to me the other day of this idea of something I wanted to do, and it's very different from things I've done before, but at the same time, it's not different from what I've done before. Like anybody who's followed our shows knows, I like my superheroes. I like my, fantasy sci-fi things. And I also like my teen drama, melodrama sort of things. So I just kind of wanted to come up with something along those veins. And obviously, Dwayne is doing the not quite Power Rangers with Turbulent Teens with Titans. So I couldn't really go down that route. So, like I said, no, there will be Rangers. Rangers and X-Men are coming back. I just can't post any episodes until the strike with SAG-AFTRA is over. because it will be promoting the IPs, and that will get our actors in trouble. So I can't do that. So yeah, the announcement is that we're going to do a new show, which is going to be a completely original show that will be based in a world that I've completely created. I've been working with a team on the Discord that have been working with me. Nate Lodbrook is the main guy who's been sort of the contributor to that, but a lot of the guys in this chat, Zach, we've had PJ, I've had a couple of guys contribute back and forth. Captain Wolf, I don't know what his real name is. Ian, I think. Yeah, Ian. Kim Good. A lot of the guys have been on contributing to ideas for the show, and it is a tad bit more, not adult, but it's a bit more aged up from even what I've done with Power Rangers. But it's kind of based in that kind of subject matter. But I just wanted to do something in that vein. And I also wanted to do something that pushes the boundaries and makes it different, because the concept I came up with is nothing really that original. It's basically just kind of what that kind of chronicle Power Rangers 2017 sort of thing. The twist that it's going to be on it is basically how the powers are given to the kids, to the characters in it, and the effects of that on them. It's not it's not just like they get powers and it's fantastic and it's great and they're superheroes. There is a downside that is not just physical, we're not just emotional and on their lives, but also a physical effect on their bodies for each of them that will be a major drawback on the powers, because the powers weren't meant for them. Is the idea we've come up with. The other thing that I'm going to lead off with is, for those of you who have enjoyed what I've done with Adam in Power Rangers, will probably enjoy it, because again, as I think we need to make something that will be original, that will have its own twist, because the concept is very right. It's very raw. It's been done several times. I want to do something that would give our own twist, and the twist is that the two main characters in the show are going to be gay, or at least eventually possibly become a couple. And then there's going to be a trans character on it. And if that's not your cup of tea, sure, fine. Wait for X-Men and Power Rangers to come back. But I think that will help us stand out. And I think it's an important message. I myself am part of that community, as I said. So I think it's an important message out there of letting everybody be inclusive and be superheroes. And that's never really been done. There's not a kind of gay teen drama superhero show. And I'm always trying to find something that is different than what I've done before and what's out there and what's in the marketplace. And I think people will enjoy it. I mean, some of the stuff we've come up with is pretty dark in places, and it's funny and stuff in places as well. But it's going to be a very kind of, it's going to be very similar to Power Rangers in some ways, but very different. We're trying to really establish the world and world build and make it make sense. And sure, there's going to be heightened reality stuff, sci-fi aliens, all that kind of stuff, but it's going to be mostly sort of grounded in sort of a reality. And again, the effects on their bodies and stuff like that is going to be the effects of that. Because as I say, X-Men, North Star has been a character, but he's never been the main character. Let's be honest. Adam is obviously a big part of our show, but he for the most part, is a supporting character. This is basically going to have the gay characters in the Tommy and Kimberly role as the leads in this. And it's going to start out with a place where you're going to be a little confused as to what's going on, because it's going to be a period piece. We decided it's going to be set in 2004. The main reason we did that was because we wanted the benefits of not having social media and things like that. But we also wanted still, relatively modern stuff. And I think that kind of setting makes sense for that kind of show. So it makes it a period piece, and also the characters in it, several of them are 16, 17. I was 16 in 2004. So that's, drawing on my own experiences. If it wasn't for the fact I want to use some incredible American actors, I would have set it here, just to make it stand out even more. I would have made it even more closer to, but basically the best way I can describe the new show would be Chronicle meets Heartstopper from Netflix, which is like the gay down to earth drama, meets a bit of X-Men, slight bit of Power Rangers. The first episode is very much establishing the characters and just the tone is people will be a bit like interested with the tone because the tone is serious, but there's some comedic bits because it's just chaotic as you're trying to figure out what's going on. We're working on it, we're workshopping at the minute, but we want to be able to put stuff out during the hiatus. And if this strike goes on if it goes on for 2 more months, great, fantastic. I've got a new show, something that I can claim as my own, although I'm going to credit the guys who have been helping me obviously develop it. Speedwation 8 is in the chat. So I'm just going to read out. Most people are just kind of chatting, but thank you to everybody for your support. Yes, the original shows are coming back. They're just on a break for as long as this strike goes on. If it goes on for 6 months, I want to put something out there. I'll still post when I finish Power Rangers X-Men episode. If I get all the lines for it, I'll still post it on the Patreon because that's behind a paywall, and it's not promoting it to the world at large. It's not promoting it to thousands. It's promoting it to like 30 people. So I'll still share that kind of stuff, but I want something that I can put out to the world at large. Okay, thank you everybody for saying they're excited about the new show. So Star Wars Marvel Purist. Discovered your channel 3 weeks ago. Already been seasons 1 and 2 of X-Men and Gondol's Man Kills. Thank you, awesome. Amazing. His homie told him about, he found it and said it was the Holy Grail. Are you doing X-Men season 4? Yes. Not only am I doing X-Men season 4, it was actively in development, and I'd sent out the script for episode 1 right when the shit with the strike hit. So if you go on the channel, last week I posted the new theme, the new opening theme, that amazingly done. That by Silver Sage, amazing stuff. So you want to check that out. You can get a preview of what's to come. There is going to be some changes in season 4. Rex Anderson is stepping down as Wolverine, and I know that's going to come as a people were like, oh no, because he is so good as Wolverine. But the guy I have found to replace him is, I think, just as good, and hopefully you guys will adjust to the casting the same way as you did when I had to replace Steve Chesterton and other guys in the past. But he'll really make it his own. So, the show has to keep going forwards. This is a thing that we do just for fun. And I don't pay any actors. We do it just because we enjoy doing it, and any of them can hop and off the train as they can be. The strike thing is a thing of us sticking together, but also there's several of the actors who still want to be in the show but can't be in the show because of the thing. But in terms of people who no longer want to be part of it in general because they haven't got the time anymore, fair enough. And I will recast going forwards. Hi, just popped in. Glad to be here. Glad you came in, Nicholas. Have I got a title? Says Tony. Yes, I have got a title. It is going to be called the East Haven 8. East Haven is being the fictional town that we're going to set it in, which is going to be in Oregon. Kind of, it's sort of imagine a sort of 2004 Stranger Things with older kids, is what we're doing. So it's going to be a little more, aged up for that age group. So yeah, I'm Stone. Keep making cool things. We love them. Thank you very much. Zach says he sent in the next. He sent his lines for X-Men because Zach is going to be playing Cypher, the New Mutant Cypher in X-Men. He sent his lines in, and the next day I was like, oh shit. I mean, the worst part was for Shane Cochran and the Masked Rider people. They've been waiting so long for lines and to get Brett had a thing with his mum being ill, so he couldn't edit the episode for a while. They literally the night before we got the communication that said we couldn't continue putting our shows, they completed Masked Rider episode 4. It's up on the Patreon for people who want to listen to it. I put it up for access to all tiers. Or you have to do any tier, £2, which is about £2, $2.50, $3, something like that. Anything about above, you can get access to the Masked Rider episode 4 right now. Star Wars Marvel Purist again. What is the period of the comics for season 4 going to be? So we're starting out with the duel between Cyclops and Storm. Then we're going to go into Mutant Massacre, and then Psylocke and Dazzler are going to join the team. So by the time we finish season 4, I'd imagine we'll either be in the Australian Outback stuff, or we'll be at the end of the 80s where Gambit joins and kind of the Muir Island thing. It depends on how many episodes we want to get into, how many sort of bonuses, and how long it takes to cover all that stuff, because that, that's the era where X-Men is absolutely insane. There's 4 books and all that kind of stuff. Age of Six thing sounds cool. Yeah, I mean it's different. Everybody can audition Adam Stone. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put up a casting call for everybody, as long as you are okay with, again, like, honestly, I would say if you're a person who's like hardcore right wing, I don't think you're interested in my shows anyway. But I am just putting it out there that it is very LGBT plus focused, a superhero show. And again, it's going to get into a little more grounded adult things than even Power Rangers has. Like, I'm never going to have, obviously, characters having sex on screen or, or on audio, obviously. But, everything else is on the table. Because I it's the real world. And if you want to say the real world, everything's on the table. Pablo Torres, is it weird you're excited about Mutant Massacre? No, it's a big milestone of the comics, and obviously it's the big change for the team. I mean, we literally just brought a new Kitty Pryde on last season, and yep. Yeah. Nicholas Corrin, he says he's texted before. I love Warlock's vibe. It's perfectly creepy. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Joey did an amazing job. But like, those who don't know, the guy Joey Solis, who plays Tommy Oliver, also plays Colossus and Beast, and he played Warlock in that episode as well. Avengers audio drama is coming. Yeah, that is coming from. I announced that on our social media. I'm not making it. I'm not producing it because I simply don't have time for another fan show. Or I didn't really want to do Avengers, but Mitch McFarlane, who is another guy who's been working with me on East Haven 8, is going to be producing that. And with a lot of the actors that from our show, like I believe Joey's Captain America and Shane is Thor, and things like that. Thank you, Tony. Jordan Mahoney, The Blind World. Hey, Karl, thanks for listening to me with the Coppers. Okay, I believe you're blind, so you might have just misheard what you said. The Coppers of X-Men and Power Rangers, but particularly X-Men. Yeah, I enjoy both for different reasons. Like, X-Men has become a bit more sporadic in terms of when it comes out, because it's just a case of there's actors on it who aren't always available. And also it's kind of become a bit more prestige. Like, Power Rangers is the show that we put out mostly, or at least every 2 months or so, whereas X-Men is the show where it's much more a prestige sort of. That's the flagship show. But Sam Devereaux, who's the narrator and has been the narrator since the beginning, as he's not able to put stuff out all the time. Because he works for Audible now. So it's one of them things. Omri plays Cyclops, things like that. Tyree, who plays Storm, also has a career. Like, yeah, there's just a lot of the guys on the cast that are not always available. Jordan Mahoney again. Who are your voice actors for Charles Xavier Kingery? Emma Frost, Angel, because I really like them as bisexual. Oh, you mean the voice actors? Again, I think the text to speech is misreading what you're saying. But yeah, Jason Rivers, for those obviously who see the YouTube ones or listen to the audio, Jason Rivers was always Charles Xavier from the beginning. Emma Frost is Gina McGinnis, who plays Rita in the Power Rangers show. And the Angel was originally Robert Pierce in season 1. It's been a while. It's been almost 10 years. Robert Pierce in season 1, and then it got took over by Keith Seymour in season Dark Phoenix, and that where he's basically kind of doing the same thing. David Deister. I noticed there is a Star Trek Enterprises in the background. Do you think you create a Star Trek audio drama? I made one. It was the first one I did. The very first audio thing I did with Omri and Jason and Steve, who was on the first couple of seasons of X-Men, and Natalie Winter, actually, she was in that as well, was a Star Trek show that was based on the Enterprise B, and it was all about what happened to the Enterprise B. It was good, but two things about it you'll have to know going in. You can find it on the channel; it's all there. One, it was my first show. So I had this thing of, oh, wow, people are reading the lines that I wasn't necessarily as critical. The acting was always there, but the audio quality wasn't always, what I would expect for it. Even in X-Men Season 1, there's some characters that sound like, they're on a phone. The audio quality that I would definitely not accept these days. But so long as you know that going in, the audio quality is not going to be quite as consistent. And also, I've got much better as a writer. There's no narrator in that. It's a different kind of format. I try and tell it more with sound effects and stuff. And also, it falls into a lot of the fan fiction tropes, where I try and tie in everything. Like it becomes almost like a DS9 tie-in sequel towards the end, and I try and tie in everything, like Savik's the first officer and stuff like that, and it gets a little fan fictiony. It is fanfic. All my stuff so far has been fanfic, but it falls into some of those tropes. So just know that going in. PEJ Durr, how can you reach out to audition for shows? Twitter, Facebook, and the Discord. We've got obviously the main Discord, which has got all the actors and the cast, and also all the fans in that I always post up. The Facebook group, Scythe Audio Dramas, Scythe Podcasts on Twitter. I always post when I'm casting. You reply to me, I'll send you give me your email. I'll send a script over. You record a sample of your lines, send them to me by email. I'll then put you in the pool. I'll like for somebody like Wolverine. I was very, very particular in recasting. There were so many really good auditions, but majority of them felt like people doing a voice. It felt like they were doing the voice of Wolverine. Whereas the guy who I cast, it's Voices by Jordan, but I want to find out what his actual name is. I posted it up on the Facebook group. Let me see if I can find it here. 2 seconds. Again, I'm not getting used to the names because I've not written it in the credits yet. It is Corey Levere. Voices by Corey. Corey Levere is who is going to be playing Wolverine in the new show. And as soon as I heard the audition, it was like, boom, that's the voice. Like I asked him, deepen it down a little. It didn't feel right in some places, but it was in the same vein as what Rex was going for, which helped. But there's just those iconic voices where you know it when you hear it about who you're casting for this new show, for this original show. Gates wide open. Even the ethnicities of characters isn't necessarily set. Like they're written to be a certain way in the script, but if I get a good audition for them, I will change the last names and change the backstory. Like everything is anybody can play anybody. Like I've written the main adult character to be Latino, so hopefully we can get a Latino actor. But if somebody comes along that isn't Latino, I can easily change the last name and change the whole vibe of him based on the casting. Because it's an original show and I can do whatever I want. So yeah, just follow me on social media and follow us on social media. I'm sure Zach probably will be happy to post the links to the Discord in there. So I'm glad nobody's turned off by the idea of the main show. I know there's people out there who just, were mad that I made Adam gay and stuff like that. But again, I'm a member of that community and I believe it's about time that we had some representation. And like I say, sometimes I'm a sick, as you listen to our shows and watch our shows, sometimes I'm a 16-year-old girl at heart. I enjoy sort of those CW shows. I don't enjoy them when they're bad. Like when it's bad teen drama, I roll my ass. When it's those ones where they drag out a reveal for 2 seasons and it's will they won't. That stuff annoys the shit out of me. I enjoy those kind of stuff, and I enjoyed Love Simon. I enjoyed Love Victor. Heartstopper's really, really good. And I just thought, that kind of vibe to what I've been doing with a superhero thing for Power Rangers, taking that even further with an original show. I say people enjoy it. Like I say, I'm working with a team, which includes Mitch McFarlane, which includes Nate Lodbrok, who's come up with a lot of the characters, and helped me come up with the concept that we've worked on together. It's going to be different, and there's going to be things that's going to be like, oh, that's a bit dark or a bit adult. But I think no more than you'd expect from the Power Rangers show. Like I haven't, I blew up Chicago. I had the Tommy and Scorpina thing. I've had discussions about very serious topics on that, and I don't think anything should be off the table. I think things are important to be talked about in entertainment. So. Nicholas Corrin, I'm guessing you were a fan of the X-Men for the 80s. Did you read back for the Phoenix Saga? I was born in 88, so I was not alive when those things came out. I grew up on the 90s animated show, and when I went to university, I just was like, you know what? The only way to really enjoy and delve into this, so much of the stories that I enjoy, I want to read the originals, is just read the comics. So I got a web copy of like all of the X-Men comics from the beginning. Although I think I originally only read from the start of Giant Size, because the original Silver Age stuff is not great, which is why it was the stuff that was the most changed in our version. Like the stories the concepts are fine, but the execution not so much. And I just read everything from Giant Size and just got familiar with it, became a fan of it. Like there's obviously things that I want to change. Oh, no worries, Nate. There's things about it that I always want to change, because there's things that are better in hindsight. Like I moved the Nightcrawler reveal up. I blatantly have called out Claremont for the weirdness of the Kitty Pryde Colossus romance. Me and Rick both did that. It's like, yes, that's fine when she's an adult, but when she's a 13-year-old kid and he's supposed to be like, 19, 20, that's really fucking weird. So we're not doing that. And, things like that I had to change. And I meant, things like Xavier and Magneto, their friendship being revealed at the start, or Moira being there, just things that make sense in hindsight, but didn't exist because they were writing it. They didn't have it in their mind when they wrote it originally, because it was a different era. So, yeah. Again, how long I go tonight is totally up to you guys and how much participation I get. Like, the more questions you send my way, the more things I can talk about. Like, if it's just going to be me talking like this, it won't last too long. But if you got anything you want me to talk about, I'm absolutely open to do it. Anything you've wondered or have questions for the future, I'll tell you what I can. So, move my whole computer setup back here for this, because originally I moved everything this way onto the desk, but I like having the backdrop of all the stuff in this room. So, yeah, hopefully, Tony. Yeah. So, I mean, those who don't know, yeah, we have a Patreon. I post at least 3 new things on it a week. Every time I post a new script, the first draft scripts, the final draft scripts, they always go up on there. We've got original stories that are in continuity. There's an original episode of Power Rangers that has not been released on the main feed. Like I said, there's a new episode of Master, and every week we do a review of every episode of Power Rangers, every episode of X-Men. Me and Oscar have been through the animated series. We're now on X-Men Evolution. We did the first 3 movies when Rick was still alive with him. So it's a lot of fun. Jaya Bryant, how long will the Power Rangers audio drama last, and will be a spin-off adapting later seasons? I have plans for everything up until the end of Zeo for now. You could probably tell from the latest episodes how I'm heavily building towards Zeo. So we will definitely be doing Zeo, and then I'll just keep going for as long as it's fun. I have ideas for stuff I want to do in the future, but not necessarily everything is forever. I don't want to get burnt out. I will just keep going for as long as it is fun. And I think the idea of the fact that after Zeo, the casts will change every year will help, because a new concept and a new cast every season will keep things fresh and different. But we are definitely we are in the end game of MMPR now. The episode that we currently have in development and should be out right now if it wasn't for the strike, or at least be almost finished if it wasn't for the strike, is the beginning of the end game. Originally, it was going to be 12 episodes like the last 2 seasons. I might cut that down to 10 because of the strike, just so, we can make up for lost time, but we'll see how it goes in the scripting process. If I still want to do 11 or 12, I will make as many as make sense for the story and not structure it around having that many episodes, because that's the mistake the original show did. Zach Adamson, again, one of the actors in the shows and always on the Patreon stuff. Doing season 2 of NPR currently makes me want to run my hair through a wall. Yes, yep. That's what we're reviewing right now. Pablo Torres, I've always had a problem with the Kitty and Colossus relationship because of the age gap, so I'm glad you addressed that. Though it still appeared in Days of Future Past episode, which weirded me out a little. Not necessarily. It didn't appear. It appeared in the future when she is above age. Like, there's not a problem with a 10-year age gap when the person is an adult. You see 20-year-olds with 30-year-olds, like, it's not that weird. But when they're still a teenager and they're still developing and they're underage, that's when it's weird. So I've got no problem with them being together around the time of Astonishing, the Joss Whedon run, but not during the Claremont era. Pablo Torres, he did a little Dire Thunder episode. Was that a tease for an Easter egg? That was Joey saying he wanted to do a Dire Thunder thing. He wanted to do a one-off, and I was like, sounds good. We'll do it as a bonus episode. He developed that whole thing, and you see how I've made it so that that's really built into the narrative of the show. I've not made it just a throwaway bonus thing. I've made it a real part of the show where, Tommy remembers that seeing his future and how that affects how his future may go, his relationship with Kim, his relationship with Kat, all that stuff. Because, we want to make everything make sense. Like, I've had comments, people are like, oh, the continuity makes no sense. I'm like, the continuity makes perfect sense. I've done painstakingly. If you pay attention to all the narration and make it all make sense, and where everything's said, everything lines up perfectly, because I made sure that it does, because I don't want it to be like the original show where nothing made sense. So, I mean, the Dino Thunder thing, like, if we get that far and Joey's still on board, we'll do it. Even if we have just as good a Tommy, but I can't imagine just as good a Tommy than Joey. But when we get there, we'll probably do it. But again, I will keep going until I don't want to do it anymore. And then if somebody else wants to, like, the Mass Rider has been made by Shane, Avengers has been made by Mitch. Handing it off to somebody else is not out of the realm possibility. I will just keep making the shows. Like, the thing, like, with Trial of Bruce Wayne, the reason that hasn't had episodes in a while is just, I hadn't had time because I moved, and then I've been working on the other 2 shows. But B, I just haven't been in the mindset to do it. Like, these shows are not on a set structure. These shows are not on a. I've not got a network or sponsors or anybody to answer to. I make the shows that I want to make, and I feel like I want to do. This is just me enjoying putting these stories out to you guys. And the more motivated I am to do it, the better it will be. If I half-arse something because it feels like a job, then that's when these shows will lose their charm. And that's what happened during the initial gap from 2016 to 2018. It's just I got the last time I tried to do an original project, which was Dawnstar, the person I was working with, it got a little complicated in the casting process. I had multiple people on board, not kind of like what I'm doing now, but with that, I wasn't the ultimate voice of authority like I am on this show. Still, it wasn't my show. It was mine and another person's show because I wrote it with somebody. And it got a little, it strung out because of that. And then on top of that, I just kind of got burnt out X-Men and doing the whole thing in the process. And I didn't have the resources and the support of like the things that I have now. And the network that has been created, the community that's been created is so cool. Like the fact that I've got 10 people in a chat on the Discord that is actively being my writer's room for the new show is, that I literally only came up with the concept for on Tuesday. I posted that tweet saying, would you be interested in an original show on Tuesday? On Wednesday, we had a concept, and we've now got a writer's room actively developing the whole thing. And there's, hundreds of people on the Discord. There's, thousands of you communicating with me out there. This is the amazing community that we built, and just the fact that all you guys who are the voice actors in the show are willing to do this for nothing and do it just because you enjoy working with me is so humbling. And that's why I choose to stand with you with the strike. And I will not do a saban and just sack you all because you don't want to work because of the strike. I think it's a good cause, despite I don't think it should shut us down. And I want to stand with you guys the same way you stood with me. So, Zach says, if you do cut down the season early, you can use the time to do the Zeo quest. Yeah, like, there's no reason why it can't be 10 episodes instead of 12 with the plot lines that I've developed out. It's just, sometimes I don't know where I'm going until I'm writing and I'm like, this makes sense. You know, I spoke in the past about the stuff with Kimberly's dad. That all just came naturally because it felt right for the story. So, you know, sometimes I'm writing and I'm like, well, this is happening sooner than I thought it would be, but I'm not going to artificially draw it out for the sakes of having 12 episodes. If it makes sense to only have 10 episodes, we'll only have 10 episodes. Star Wars Marvel Purist. How were you introduced to X-Men? It sounds like you're about 8 years younger than me. I call it the tail end of the Claremont era. Who are your favourite two X-Men writers aside from Claremont and Stan? I wouldn't say Stan was my favourite writer. I mean, he was a fantastic creator of the characters. His X-Men is not great, and most of my work in season 1 was making his stuff make sense. But like I said, I was introduced to X-Men with the animated series in the 90s, and then, of course, the movies, and then I, continued with all the other media stuff until I got to university in about 2009 and read all the comics. Not all the comics, but I mean, originally when I read it, I was like, New Mutants, don't want to read that. And I think the fact that we've done this spin off that Rick did kind of gave me new appreciation for the New Mutants that I never had before. Originally, I was just like, I'm not interested in doing that. They could be, side characters, which they mostly are, but Rick really developed them and made those 2 episodes amazing. To the point that I don't know what I'm going to do with a New Mutants going forward because I don't have the writer anymore. So, yeah. Did I do mic checks? Yeah, I did mic checks. If you guys can hear me, I did mic checks. Put it that way, because if I was on my USB mic, which is my webcam one up there, you guys would definitely tell because I would not be clear at all. Gio Bryant, where do you get the sound effects for the shows? That's give the credits. Most of them have come from a website called freesound.org, which is a library of free sound effects that people upload. It's basically just like a user database, and you can just find free sound effects there. Some people want to be credited, but most of them are fine with you just using it, royalty free. So I get them from there. If I can't find the right sound effect there and it's not in the original, I feel like the original Folly sound effects are fair game. Like, I'm making a Power Rangers show, I'm already impinging on your IP, Saban. It's okay if I use the Megazord sound effect, you know what I mean? So they're fair game. But if I can't find that, like I want it to sound, because sometimes I have a very specific sound in mind, I will go to a website called pond5.com and I will purchase a sound from there if I can't find it on free sound. Tony, that is an inside joke because we've been doing the Patreon shows and there's been a couple of times where I failed to record my audio and it has led to recap episodes which were not as good. It turns out, okay, I realised I didn't answer Star Wars Marvel Purist original question. Writers for X-Men that are my favourites. I know he's not very popular these days, but Joss Whedon, I really loved Astonishing, and who would be the second other than Claremont? That's really tough because Claremont did all the good stuff, and he saw the classic good stuff. Karl Yost, I think he's fantastic at X-Men, obviously from Evolution and things like that. So, yeah. Chris Hype, I love the brief teasers for the Ranger events to come, TIE Force, Dino Thunder, etc. Any season in particular you want to do teasers of? Obviously not wanted to go into spoiler territory. Yeah, I'm heavily hinting into Zeo at this point, and I've got some cool ideas for that, and where am I going to go, and how things are going to naturally evolve from our version of OMPR. I know Nathan, who does Rito, is developing something to do with RPM at the minute. So yeah, that's the one that everybody really likes. So, like I say, people come to me with ideas for spin-offs and stuff. So long as they're up to a certain quality, I'll absolutely back it if they make sense in my continuity. Yeah, absolutely. So, dear, dear, dear. Okay, again, I'm going to run out of things to talk about. If okay, let's see, I'll throw it to you guys in the chat. Bright, any advice on creators wanting to create their own audio dramas? Make sure that you have the right audio equipment to be able to make everybody sound like they're in the same room. The problem with the original stuff, the Star Trek show and stuff like that, is that everybody's got various levels of sound quality, so you can tell when some people are not in the same room. Nowadays, there is a certain level of sound quality which might be unrealistic for saying I'm not, paying anybody, but if you send me a recording on an iPhone and I can tell it's an iPhone, you're not going to be casted. It's just what it is nowadays. And also on top of that, everybody, unless they have the toppest of top professional studio, or if they clean it up themselves, will have background audio when they send you their files. So Adobe Audition is fantastic. I use it. It's expensive as hell, which is why the Patreon is a thing. Like, I make maybe 50 in bonus on top of my expenses for the shows. Most of my money for the Patreon goes into expenses because the Adobe suite keeps going up, and I use a Premiere, I use Audition, I use Photoshop, so I need to have the whole package. But Adobe Audition is incredible because you can take out all the background audio. I've got examples of how I do that on the Patreon and some on this channel as well. Get rid of that, and then I edit it all together. So just make sure you've got the right, or like, you can only polish a turd so much. Like, if somebody sends you really bad audio, there's nothing you can do to make that sound better. But if somebody sends you good audio with a lot of background noise, that you can clean up and make them all sound like they're in the same room. Pablo Torres, has there been any form of X-Men media that's inspired something in the show rather than the comics? Yeah. I mean, I think you can tell when the casting of Magneto is extremely Ian McKellen, because that's the most iconic voice. Like, sometimes it's like, yes, Magneto probably should have a Polish voice, but this is the voice that's most identifiably Magneto, and it sounds right because as soon as I got that audition for him, I was like, yeah, that's the voice. And he's been with us almost 10 years since. So that, and also I think the Juggernaut episode was a little inspired by Evolution. Obviously the whole theme is from the 90s animated show. I think the way that I handled the Mystique thing is more from the anime shows, and there's stuff like character dynamics and stuff that's some of it's from the movies. The way I did the Sentinels was very Days of Future Past. If you remember that, when they had the ceremony with the national anthem and all that kind of stuff, was very much the same Days of Future Past. Let's make a nice mix of all. You're the best of all worlds. Well, let's get a little dry. Okay. Chris Hyde, Master Rider's Edition genuinely gave me chills when I heard that classic theme for the first time. I know it's not MBR canon, but any chance of VR Troopers or Beetleborgs appearing in the Savanverse? If somebody else wants to do it and they can make sense in making it connect to my show, sure, if it's good enough. I don't want to do it. I'm happy with just doing Power Rangers. So, I mean, I could put Easter eggs in there, but I feel like because those shows were so short-lived and they were only in the 90s, I don't think either of the shows make sense to tie into Power Rangers. Master Rider has an inherent tie-in because of the crossover. I don't think any of the shows have it makes sense. Star Wars More Purist, the original X-Force team with Liefeld was pretty solid. Yeah. Then Marvel started changing the X-Force around. I really like, I don't know the writer's name off the top of my head. I really like the X-Force team when they were in the grey and they were like the hit squad. I like that version. Yeah. Like, of course, the Magio cast is brilliant. Yeah, he's really good. Like, of course, not everything is going to be exactly as I imagine it, but I'm very happy with, you know, most of the X-Men. I'd say all the X-Men and most of the Power Rangers, they are exactly as I imagined them sounding when I wrote. And then when you start writing more episodes, you know your actor's cadence and you write to that and all that kind of stuff. So Zach says in one episode of Beetleborgs in the comic shop, they have the heart of King Sphinx in the background. They have the head of King Sphinx in the background. There's your tie-in. Okay, yeah. Although King Sphinx hasn't been in our show. But yeah. Of course, I didn't want to do Monster of the Week because as funny as it is, it doesn't make sense for our tone. So, like as much as I would, like, how do I do Pumpkin Rapper in my show, right? He'd be like a gangster, like a pimp or something. A Halloween themed pimp. And then we get into that weird sort of dark, gritty reboot thing, which I don't know. I've teased some of that with this, but I don't want to go too hard into that. I just like to make the show that makes sense. Yeah. Chris Hart Childbirth Spain is really quite stellar. Where did you get the original idea of the story come from? I just like the idea of doing a sort of noir thing where Batman existed in the original time he was invented. And I loved this idea of doing like if Batman existed in the real world, this is what would happen sort of thing. Like I've always had this image in my head of doing like those shows where the terrible fake TV shows where they go to like a haunted house and stuff like that. Like imagine going to Wayne Manor and like, back in 1939, Bruce Wayne lived here in his Batman, they go to the Batcave and it's like, oh, the ghost is Batman. Like I've always had ideas of doing stuff like that. So that's where it came from. And again, that's a show I really enjoy doing, but I just, at the minute, my creative well is a bit dry on it, and I'm also working on so many other stuff. And I now can't release it. So those three things together is just like, that's on a bit of a hold at the minute, and I'll come back to it when I have an inspiration and it'll be good enough. I'll come back to it. I won't leave it unfinished. So the same reason as why we didn't do Dark Victory, because I just didn't have the motivation to do it. I really wanted to do Long Halloween. We did Long Halloween, and as much as everybody wanted me to do Dark Victory, I was like, I just don't have the passion for it, And I think, but the trouble is, we had that hiatus. Then by the time we came back from the hiatus, like every famous Batman story had been done in the animated ones. Like they did a lot of those animated adaptations, so it's lost sort of the uniqueness that it originally had. Pablo Torres, in your Days of Future Past, you use Bishop in the future instead of Pieter. Was that a nod to the fact that most people believe it comes from that universe because most media point out story? Yeah, that was a Rick decision. Rick wrote Days of Future Past, and I agree with the changes he made. I think they make perfect sense to make, like with everything in our show, I'm always trying to simplify it and make it make sense. And X-Men is so ridiculously freaking complicated. The fact that we're getting into an era where I'm going to have to get into the Madeline Pryor stuff with Cable and all that is like my head is going to explode trying to make that make sense, because that's the whole stuff that everybody gets really confused with X-Men. With the time travel, and instead of it's from a future that's like Days of Future Past, but not quite like that's not quite Days of Future Past. It's like, just make it Days of Future Past. There's no reason why Bishop can't be from that future. So it makes a time in. And it's just some cool, interesting twists on things that you can use future stuff that the comics didn't know at the time to retroactively tell the stories of tell the Days of Future Past story with some hints towards the future, such as some of the characters that were on that team, stuff like that. So, yeah. And again, that was all Rick. God bless him. Oh man, that I need to drink more wine before I speak about that one. The fact I've got two obituaries on the X-Men feed is kind of terrible. But I think the grey Star Wars more pure again. I think the grey uniformed X-Force was Rick Remender. Oh, yeah. Uncanny X-Force. Yeah, those were really good. I love the stuff with Angel and Psylocke and all that. The idea when Angel was kind of like the Jekyll and Hyde thing, where he was like Angel, but he was also Archangel. Good stuff. So, Which again, we're going to be coming into Archangel very soon, possibly if the show, if I'm allowed to put the show out again. Chris, how was it to make yourself a character with your cameo Deadpool? Was it weird to generally ride for yourself as yourself? Yeah, that was again Rick's idea. He came to me with the idea for the scene that he wrote, which was the end credits one that was just on the YouTube version. That was on the YouTube version, but it was on the podcast. But then I did my one because I'd forgot that he said he was going to write it, and then we both went away and wrote independent scenes. And mine was the phone call one, and his was the kidnapping him one. We just thought it'd be funny to have this kind of fourth wall breaking sort of, hey, why am I not in the show yet? Sort of thing. And we both went away and independently wrote scenes that we worked together to make them be a 1-2 punch with the podcast version. So for those of you who have only listened to it on the YouTube version, there is a first scene that is referenced in the second scene that you heard on YouTube. There's a bonus mid-credit scene where Deadpool comes in initially. In terms of writing myself as a character, I just said what I say on all the after shows and stuff, which, again, if you don't know, on the Patreon, we do after shows for every episode that we release. And I just basically put my answers to people. For some bizarre reason, right, on every video, people are going, are you going to do House of M this season? Why the fuck would I do House of M in the mid-80s? I don't know why people think I'm doing that in the mid-80s. I'm following the comic book timeline. You'll be lucky if you get Gambit this season. So, you might do at the very end. Although I don't want to do the whole thing where Storm becomes a child. What the hell was that? She could just meet him as an adult. Get her powers back some other way. She got powers back around that time, right? So. AI episodes, is that going to be a thing down the road? Though that was really fun, the one that we did, but AI is such a hot button topic, and it's like one of the reasons that the strike is going on, which is why we can't release episodes. That I want to stay away from that for now, because we can't release episodes because of our actors. Here's AI written script, a little bit too close to home with that one. So it'd be nice once that can be nice and fun again, but I don't know. It's like if I did I was talking about Heartstopper, which is a Netflix show, which thank God is a UK production Netflix show, but I had to sign up to Netflix to watch that, but I immediately cancelled my subscription afterwards because they're one of the main reasons that this is going on right now. As much as I enjoy their content, the whole streaming stuff is theirs and Disney's fault primarily. So yeah. Will I do current X-Men runs? Yeah, if I get to it in the timeline in 2055. Given our current track record of 2 or 3 years a season, it'll be a while. I'll have grey hair by then. But the current one, haven't caught up with it. The bit that lost me, and as I know people have told me it's good, the bit that lost me was when everybody came back to life, like even Gene and all the people who just were said that were never going to come back to life, and that was when I was like, okay, so nothing matters. Okay, well, fuck you. Done. Zach says, anything from Marvel say that you're really interested in doing, assuming you had an infinite amount of time? Marvel DC. Well, crossovers. I feel like I don't have a unique enough take on some of the characters. Like Avengers, I feel like have been done as well as they can be done in my mind. The reason the X-Men show is so popular, I think, and the reason that it's as good as it is because there isn't a show that exists like that. There's not a show that is just like, let's do the X-Men comics and bring them to life in other media and, follow them pretty much faithfully as possible, other than just a couple of changes here and there. Like nobody else is doing that. And that's why I think our show is unique. Or a lot of the other properties are there's already a really good Batman show and a really good Superman show, and everybody's got a unique thing on that. But there's some unique crossovers and stuff that would be interesting to do. Definitely, like It's something I had planned for the 10th anniversary of Scyther next year that will be, I think people will enjoy if we're allowed to produce it. So it should be over by next year, right? we can't go 2 years without movies. Sammy Howard said, "I see a Star Trek fan. Any chance of a fan order about that? Maybe with original characters." Again, check out Star Trek Lost Enterprise on this channel. Do want to do another one though, because again, that was my very first one. The audio quality is not great. The storytelling is not amazing, but I think it's good enough. And you can see the embryonic stages of what this became with Omri Rose is in it, Jason Rivers is in it, Natalie Winter is in it. You can see a lot of where my X-Men cast came from that show. C. Chesterton, who unfortunately lost contact with since. But Jack, the Fall of X or is getting okay again. It got a bit done for a bit. Okay, cool. So as well, Pure X-Men, he's covering right now as the best. Well, what the mid-80s? Yeah, like I love the Jim Lee looks of the costumes and stuff because obviously I'm a fan of the animated series. But by the time we get to those costumes, we lose Claremont and the looks get dumb and yeah, Onslaught and all that kind of stuff. Which cool as it is in some places, you also it's not the same thing. Jonathan Gibbons, someday I would like to see you take on Jonathan Hickman run on X-Men. Sure. I mean, again, when I'm about 70, we'll get there. Chris Scyther on him first. Yeah. Tony says, would you ever consider doing a horror drama like zombies or monsters? Zombies are so overdone. Like, I've never really been a huge horror fan, but when I was into that kind of stuff. But it's played out to this point. They've done every single which way variation on that. Like, I'd much prefer to do a show like ours where it can adapt to be any different kind of genre and just fold other genres into it. Like, I could do a horror episode of Power Rangers with the, Psycho Rangers or something rather than, yeah. So, somebody else said there was a Star Trek X-Men crossover novel too. Yeah, there was. There's also a really good Doctor Who one that was done with Matt Smith, and he's on the Next Generation. That was really good because everybody knows the Cybermen and the Borg are very similar, so it made sense to have them work together in that. Tim Blevins, hi Tim. I wrote your picture. Thank you for you. If you do Oliver Queen Green Arrow in a Batman show or is it their own show, let me know. We'd love to voice him. Sure, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean he could become a witness and try to Bruce Wayne in the future, right? No reason why not. I don't think I want to go into like Superman or Wonder Woman because that, the tone is very down to earth, grounded in the real world sort of thing, and I think bringing in superheroes would make it a bit weird. Even with the mentions of Ra's al Ghul and all that, but Stars of Purist, I think the reboot is overrated. It was well orchestrated in the beginning, but it fell apart quickly. I prefer if they just continue to the tried and true. That's for X-Men, I'm assuming. Yeah. I just lost touch when, I really was enjoying the mid-2000s stuff where Cyclops was with Emma Frost and all that stuff, and then it just felt like the stuff where the First Class came to the present was okay, and obviously it's similar to some of the stuff I've done with Power Rangers, but it's like I was like, okay, that's okay for like a 3-issue miniseries thing, but the idea that the First Class just stayed in the X-Men time period for like a year or two was like, what? It just ruins the timeline too much for me. Oh, they're going to go back and they're going to be a year older than they should be. Yeah. Spellison may have missed it, but is Jubilee going to make an appearance, or was Kitty sort of a replacement? Well, Kitty was the character in those original stories. Jubilee is obviously going to come in. She comes in during the Australia Outback stuff. That's where Jubilee comes in. Because, for those who know the future, unfortunately, we're going to lose a couple of characters in the Mutant Massacre. So, not necessarily to death, although maybe. Stay tuned. Yeah, everybody being immortal, Jack. Yeah, not a fan. Everybody being back and being immortal, I was like, this isn't X-Men anymore. I love anybody who watches our show, you know that or listens to our show, I should say. I'm a fan of continuity and canon and things like that, and everything making sense and characters remembering everything that happened and stuff like that. Like when characters keep dying and coming back multiple times, it's like you've lost me. Like Jean is the only one you can maybe kind of get away with that once. What I did it with Tommy, but that's the only time I'll ever do it in Power Rangers. Death should mean something. And I know you want to bring the characters back, but then don't kill them. Don't kill them for the sakes of selling an issue and then want to bring them back. Like nobody believes you're actually going to keep Wolverine dead, so don't kill him. Tony says, think Silver Surfer or Spider-Man pop an X-Men. I mean, there's no reason why not, right? Like when crossovers come up. But I haven't done Secret Wars or anything like that. But season 3 was the season where I finally was like, fuck it, it's in the Marvel Universe. And I'm just going to start referencing the fact it's in the Marvel Universe because I'm going to do Miss Marvel for Rogue and everything else. Like, yeah. Papa Torres, what's your favorite X-Men movie and favorite change the movie did? Depends on which day you catch me. If you want just a pure like X-Men on the big screen, fully realized X2, you can't get any better than that. With all the classic characters. Although I have a real soft spot for First Class and Days of Future Past. First Class just for how just good it is in general. Days of Future Past is the best of both of those worlds. It's the best of Bryan Singer's plus the best of what Matthew Vaughn did with it. The only thing I really wish about Days of Future Past is that they'd kept the colourful costumes because I liked them when they were in the blue and yellow in First Class. But it's Days of Future Past I think is generally my favourite, although it comes with a lot of caveats and you have to have had investment to get to that point. So if you just want an X-Men movie to go, here's what X-Men is, X-Men 2 can't get much worse than that. So yeah. Well, First Class is so good. Like Magneto, First Class, everything I do with Magneto is so based on that because that's so good. That was my favorite change, is all the stuff with him in that. I also, a lot of the stuff where, it's the simplified stuff between Eric and Charles and all that kind of stuff when it made sense before they got weird with the timelines. All that stuff was really, really good change. Just the stuff that made it make more sense. Built up to it really well. Yeah. All right. So we're going about an hour. So again, anybody got any more questions? Raymond Riera, hello there. Thank you for your content. Thanks for your work. Thank you very much. Again, I hope that we can bring the fan shows back as soon as possible. I'm going to continue writing and editing, and then as soon as I can bring them to you, I will bring them to you. Like, obviously, sometimes I'm on the schedule of the voice actors. Like, I still haven't got everything for the 2 episodes I should have had everything for by now. But, like, at the same time, I'm not going to push the actors, especially now that, like, the episodes aren't going to be coming out for a long time. I can't be like, hey, get it now, because, Tony, you're in the chat. I need your stuff. But I'm not going to harm people for it. For something that's not going to come out, maybe not going to come out for 6 months. Like, if it gets to the point that I've been waiting till Christmas for lines, sure, I'll get a bit on it with it. But for now, I'm going to continue just keeping the train rolling. Get episode 9, episode 10 written, get that sent off to a script editor, get them ready so that I can send multiple scripts to the cast. And then what they can do is just, when they have time over the break, record. And hopefully when I come back, I'll just have everybody's lines for like 2 episodes or 3 episodes or something. And I can just put it together and just, once I have everything for them, or most everything, I'll put the episodes together. Like I said, I'll still post them on the Patreon. I just can't put them out at large at the minute. So. So as the more purist, I agree canon and continuity are sacred. Jean was an exception because the fans were pissed Claremont killed her off. I think Marvel's editor-in-chief Jim Shooter made Claremont bring her back. Yeah, I think he's the one who killed her as well, which is weird. The thing is with Gene is I had a vote on the Facebook group and on Twitter. I was like, okay, tell me, because I can't decide, should I bring Gene back? Because two reasons. I don't know if Natalie Winter would be able to come back because she's very busy being like a video game voice producer now. Like everybody who was in our shows has gone on to do it as their career, and it's incredible to see. And the fact that I had any hand in helping them with that is awesome for me. But two really like she can't necessarily come back, and also her death in Dark Phoenix was so good and such a great end for the character. I always felt that her second death with Grant Morrison, another great X-Men run by the way. Okay, talk about her death with Grant Morrison was really underwhelming and just felt like, you know, perfunctory just to get Jean dead again. And I felt like you don't get a much better end than Dark Phoenix. So should I bring her back? But between people saying yes, absolutely, you need her, and also me realizing, oh shit, I can't do this story and that story and that story without Jean. Like, you know, how do I end the Madeline Pryor story without Jean? You know, so it may. Originally, I said I'm gonna. I'd only do it if Natalie came back. Obviously, if she can come back, like please, 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 please come back. But if she can't, then I will have to recast. I didn't think I'd ever have to recast. I don't think I'd ever replace Rex, and I had to for Wolverine. So yeah. Again, all this stuff is public knowledge. If you follow me on Twitter on all the Facebook groups I through audio dramas, I post things all the time because I'm a maniac, letting everybody know what's going on, and also just because, like, I wouldn't call myself a person who has like anxiety and stuff like that, but I have anxieties about these shows and how people respond to them, and generally, generally I can just laugh off a negative comment and stuff like that, but I always want to make sure that I'm make sure that that I appreciate all that you've done to make this community. Because at the end of the day, it is just me making these shows. It's basically just very high production podcasts. Fan fiction is what they are, and the fact that people have found them and made an audience is amazing. And part of the thing of never doing an original show was time, but also my feeling was that nobody would care. My feeling was that people are tuning in because it's X-Men, people are tuning in because it's Power Rangers, but as soon as I start telling my own stories, people can be like, well, I don't care anymore because it's not characters I've heard of. And that was one of the things that held me back from doing it. But the support that I've had in terms of just in the concept of doing it, but also the support I've had from the community on the Discord and things in developing it has shown me that that's not the case. Like, it may not become popular, but if it does, it's mine, and I can own it. I can copyright it. I'll have to make sure to dot my I's and cross my T's more with an original thing because, just using a sound off the internet when it's X-Men is one thing, but when it's something that could potentially make money one day, I have to make sure that I credit everybody and make sure it's royalty free and all that kind of stuff because I don't want to be sued if it ever blew up. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I'm making sure, like, all the contributions that all the guys are contributing to the ideas for this new show are put if they're put into the show eventually. I want to make sure that everybody gets credit, and I'm not going to make any money off it anytime soon. This is just for fun, but you never know what could happen. And Welcome Night Vale, I'm sure when they started, they didn't think it'd become much of anything, and look what happened there. So maybe this original show will be the thing that, especially with doing something that's out of the box and going to the LGBT plus community, I think is really going to help this show find an audience. And I just hope that they don't think it's juvenile or not worth their time, or people think that I'm not a good enough writer to talk about some of this stuff because so far I've had the crutch of having the first drafts essentially written for me, of basing it on existing things and existing characters and just being able to build the building blocks on top of that. Doing an original thing is completely stepping outside of my comfort zone and I don't know if I'm a good enough writer to do it. But the encouragement of the people on the Discord and things like that is helping me realize that that is hopefully going to be the case. So I appreciate all of you who have have helped and supported and said that you want to see an original show. The overwhelming support to say that they would listen to an original show on the social media and stuff was really cool to read and stuff. Because this, there's times where I work day and night on these shows, and I work so hard on them to get them out for a certain time because I'm motivated. I want to get them out for a certain time. I'm hounding the actors and saying, "Get me your lines, get me your lines, get me your lines." And I put them out, and not many people are commenting on the premiere, or not many people comment on the video, and I don't really get much feedback. And it's that instant gratification thing of, I'm not getting the feedback, and it feels like nobody cares. Like, even though I can see the numbers, it feels like nobody cares. And there's times where that happens, and I just feel like, is it worth it? But then I'll get a message, on Twitter or Facebook or something, and people will say, yours is the best X-Men ever, or yours is the best Power Rangers ever, or something like that. And I'm like, that's what I always aim to do. That's what my intention always was I'm coming at it as a place as a fan, and I want to make the shows that I want to. Like, an X-Men show like that doesn't exist, and a Power Ranger show like that doesn't exist. I want them to be a thing. Why are they not a thing? So I'm just going to make them. And I'm going to make the show that I myself would want to listen to. So, that was a bit of a self-reflective ramble that I meant it to be. But I don't know. Paolo Torres, excited for X-Men 97. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it'll be really good. The idea of, we just reviewed X-Men the Animated Series for the Patreon with Oscar and myself. And the main problem I had with it was the lack of changes, and the team dynamic. I like the X-Men being a rotating cast and a continuing, evolving story. The fact we're finally going to get that with the 90s animated continuity is awesome. So I hope it's good. Sammy Allison always put on red wine, which is amazing for my acid reflux, but I enjoy it, so screw it. I mean, it's my drink of choice is either this or Jack Daniels and Coke, and I don't want to get fucked. Although, to be fair, this wine is like 13%, but at least I'm limited with this. Stars More Pure, thanks for all your hard work, and obviously you love the material, which what makes it great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I said, that's what I do. That's the show that I want to see as a fan. So I'm like, if I'm listening back to this for the 10th time, because the way you have to edit is this is what I'm drinking about. The way you edit is you listen to something so many times, and if I listen back to something and I go, oh man, that gave me chills, or that gave me the fan boner. Like, if it does it for me, then I know it will do it for other fans. So, like, as soon as I heard Rex's Wolverine, I was like, oh, yeah, things like that, or Joey as Tommy, and when I got to tell those stories, and I was like, wow, this is so much more than I could ever imagined it ever being. Tony, is there an episode you're proud of writing for other shows? Like my favorite episodes of writing was? Oh God, that's a question. I like them all for different reasons. I enjoy the big ones in terms of the finales, and when all the sound effects, like those are the ones that take me so long to, it takes me 5 hours, 25 minutes, because I don't have to have a sound effect every time a sword clashes, but for me, as the perfectionist that I am, I have to have a sound effect for every time there's a foot stomp or a kick or a punch, or I'm just a perfectionist in that way. I want to fully immerse you in the story. I want the movie in your mind to be great. So I enjoy that stuff, but it's really hard to do that. But when you listen back to it, you're like, oh, the music's really good. And thank you to all the composers who've helped me. Not only the people who've composed it for our show, like Declan and everybody, and Rex who did the Power Rangers theme and all that kind of stuff, but also the composers who have let me use their music in the show just from a message on Facebook or an email or whatever. And when I put those together and it is so hype, and I'm like, oh my god, that is so cool! Like the season 2 finale, or even the season 1 finale, Power Rangers, or Days Future Past, or the Trial of Magneto, or just any of the time it's this culminating thing, like the X-Men theme is playing, and all the X-Men, all the New Mutants, they're all fighting together, and it's this great sort of thing. Or Jean coming out the water, I am fire and life incarnate, doing the iconic lines, and it's like, this is exactly how I imagine the comics coming to life. It's like, that's so cool. But sometimes my favorite stuff is the slice of life quiet moments. I really enjoy and that's why I think I decided to go the way I did with my original show, because I enjoy the stuff that's just slice of life, down to earth character stuff. Like there's sometimes where I watch TV shows where I could I just want to watch, these characters play poker and just hang out. I could watch 10 episodes of these characters just hanging out and being themselves, and like their unique personalities and experiences add to a thing like that. And so like things like episode 4, season 1 of Power Rangers, or the Halloween party, or the little conversation like in the Phoenix Saga that I added, where we talk about Kurt's faith and how that's tested by the knowledge of aliens, or just little character moments or the layers that I added to the Rogue and Kurt stuff that wasn't originally there, like the found family type stuff, which makes sense for their characters, but wasn't originally thought of when the characters were really conceived of, because all that stuff was added on later. Like in terms of my favorite episodes, it's a bit of a recency bias, but that Cornus episode was really good, wasn't it? For Power Rangers, and Trial of Magneto and Family and things like that were really good for X-Men. So, like, I think the reason I got burnt out on X-Men as well is like for a while there. At the end, after season 2, we went to Dark Phoenix, we went into the start of season 3. I was just transcribing. I was just, copying what the original comics were and updating some of the language or some of the context to our show. And it was fun to do the classics because I didn't want to change them because they were so good, and like I felt like I couldn't touch them. But the fun of X-Men season 1 was taking the silly stuff that Stan Lee did and making it make sense with the rest of X-Men. And that's why Power Rangers has been so fun, because it is this stupid dumb. Like, I love it. Look, obviously, I love it. Right? It's a stupid dumb kid show, but I have a tremendous nostalgia for it. Its characters. It made no sense, but it had this idea of this lore that was hinted at but never paid up on, because it was written by people who thought kids were dumb or were writing a dumb kid show. But it triggers something nostalgic in me. So I wanted to make the Power Rangers show that I remembered as a kid. I wanted to make the show that felt like, oh man, I really wish Tommy and Kimberly were an actual couple. Then we got to see them do actual coupley things and really explore that relationship rather than just going, oh, they're together. Anyway, we're not going to mention it for 50 episodes, So yeah, that stuff is just awesome to do. I can't remember what the original question was, but yeah. The Star Wars Purist, the Inferno Run with Madeline Pryor is great. The Goblin Queen Yar Grant is good, and if you're right, the impact of Darth Phoenix death is 100% correct. Yeah, I know there was a while there, even to almost when we were developing the season, I didn't know I was even going to bring it back. But how can you have that fully classic team without Gene being there? And yeah, I'll try and if we ever get to the Grant Morrison, I'll try and make her death less lame than the Grant Morrison originally was. Man. Okay. Sammy Allenson, for the original show, are you planning to attempt to primarily bring on LGBTQ audience actors, since the type of show you're intended to produce? I do occasionally watch the shows like Love Victor, and I get annoyed that it's like, these actors are great, but then you find out that they're not actually gay themselves, and it's like, it's almost, you wonder if they're doing it for brownie points. But you shouldn't necessarily base I'm not going to go, right, you can't play this character because you're not gay. You can't play this character because you're not bi. You can't play this character because, I'm not going to gatekeep like that. My intention is to, obviously, with the trans character, that's important that it is somebody of, because you can't have somebody doing a voice that, it's a it's a very unique voice, obviously, for somebody who's transitioned, and I don't think it's right to cast somebody. It would be no different than casting a different ethnicity in a role. So that's important to get right. But in terms of sexuality, I don't think sexuality is important to casting somebody. Um, I think so long as the voice is right and they are great for the role and they perform it well and they convince you that they are that in the scene and the episodes, that's all that matters. So I'm sorry, I just realised I keep banging my desk with my chair because it's a L-shaped desk and keep banging the microphone. So getting the shakes like I'm on I'm in Star Trek things in the background. Yeah, like I'm being hit on a Star Trek show. But all right, I did love this take of Barry's. Thank you. So thank you for all the bangers. It's morphing time. Well, no problem. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Tony Fielding, do you have an awkward, embarrassing, or funny memory from making these shows? Cards on the table. I regret the Scorpina thing. I've paid it off well since. Originally, it was just to do that character drama where she splits up with Goldar and all that kind of stuff, and the resulting rivalry between her and Kimberly and all that. There was some great stuff there, but because I've heard that people got to that point of the show and were turned off by it and was like, I can't get on board with this version of Power Rangers because of it, I regret it for that reason. It wasn't probably thought through. It was done for character drama. I think the season 3 episode where we had Tommy come to terms with his trauma made it work, but it was too little too late, I think, with that. And I think I do regret doing it for that reason, because if anybody gets to that episode, which is in the middle of some of the best stuff we've done for the Green Ranger saga and some of the most important Power Ranger stuff, if you get to that and you turn off the episodes and can't enjoy the shows because of it, I'm sorry. That's never my intention. I just wanted to tell a good story. And I thought it would lead to some great character dynamics, which it did, but it was not my intention to upset anybody or trigger anybody or turn anybody off from the show. So I do regret that. There's a character trait in the original show. There's nothing like that, but it's a thing that's a bit more. It could be interpreted as kind of not making fun of the character, but demeaning the character or something. But I think it's a thing that's an interesting part of the show, and I think it grounds the show in a reality that their bodies have a reaction to having these powers. And there's major drawbacks to the powers, and I think that some people reacted badly at the writers into that, and it made me kind of go, "Oh, is this going to be another Scorpina thing?" And it's not. People have assured me that that's not the case. I just don't want people to listen to it and go, "Oh, are you trying to put your weird kinks into a show?" Like, that's not the case at all. I don't want people thinking that. So, like, don't get me wrong. It's nothing weird. It's not like Quentin Tarantino with his foot fetish or anything like that. But like, it was just a thing that enough people went, that's a bit weird, or went quiet on the subject that made me would question whether it was something I want to be putting out there for my first original show to go there. But I don't think. So if people take that the wrong way, I'll kind of be embarrassed by that, but it's not my intention. It's just I'm trying to write a good story and come up with a fun gag for a character, or a fun thing for the character that will make them have an arc and that kind of stuff. But it's nothing triggering. It's nothing. There are some characters I've come up with which is quite dark and triggering, but it's nothing like that. It's just you'll know it when you hear it, and I hope it doesn't turn people off from the show. But I feel like anybody who's on board with an LGBT plus thing will be on board with it. Like, it's nothing weird. It's nothing sexual. It's just, I don't know. I just, that's the stuff that gives me anxiety and lets me get in my head, is just like, how are people going to receive this? And I don't want my first original stuff to be received like, oh, this is this. Yeah, he's finally getting to do his own stuff and he's putting his own weird things into it. That's all. it's hard for people to understand what I'm talking about without before you hear the show. And I just hope people take it the way it's meant, which is supposed to be a fun running gag that's just for mostly comedy that is going to pay off as a. Okay, so if anybody's like watched The Boys, it's kind of like that in terms of a realistic thing that to do with superpowers that most versions won't even dare touch or even mention. So hope people take it the right way. Tim Blevins, definitely love the way you're doing the Power Rangers show. Got plans for anyone to play the Gold Zeo Ranger yet? Yes. Yep. The person you would imagine for one of them, but the other one is a major reveal, which I hope you guys get to hear because after we do the Power Rangers review show, myself and the people who do that sit on the call afterwards and do a kind of back and forth pitch writers room type deal, and we came up with this incredible thing for that. That's I hope people will enjoy the reveal on and reveal the do all that kind of stuff. So. Zach Emerson, yeah, you replied to that. Yep. Okay. Paul Torres, any new X-Men relationship that you're excited to have in season 4? Yeah. I'm excited to bring Psylocke in. That's going to be fun. I'm the further explanation of the Madeline Pryor stuff with Scott. What bringing Jean back will mean, and when that eventually happens, it'll be later in the season. It's not going to be early on. So, yeah. Torres used the Time Force characters in some episodes, and everyone represents the other Ranger teams, even though they're not Rangers. Yeah, I mean we've been heavily hinting at Lightspeed Rescue, right? Which there'll be more of that in the next episode. Because my idea is with the Zeo, I've spoken about this before. Same as how I built some Jew Ranger into my version of Power of NPR, I'm going to build some O Ranger into Zeo. So that will become important to the whole idea of a government agency who work with the Rangers, is all I will say. So, yeah, I'll continue hinting at that stuff because, why not? Who knows if I'm ever going to get that far? Who knows if I'm ever going to do that season? So I may as well do it now and have some fun. And I don't want to just shatter grid, but I may as well do some fun crossover stuff. Thank you all for hanging out with me this long. Just having fun talking to myself. Sorry, just getting messages from people. I was going to say something, but then my brain just exploded then because I think I've spoken too long. But I will continue. Like I said, how long this goes is up to you guys. So if you want to ask any more things or talk about any more things, now's the time. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and call it because it's almost midnight here. So yeah, thank you for joining me. I hope you guys are all tune into the original show. I hope you guys enjoy it. People who just either want to stick with it because of they'd rather stick with Power Rangers next week because that's what they know. Fair enough. But I think if you enjoy what I've done with Power Rangers, you'll enjoy the new show. So, Pablo Torres, Romance Wise, Tommy and Kim, and Tommy Cat are the only true official ones of the show. They're only hinted at in the others only hinted at in Boop Studios. Any thoughts on which couple you put in the show? So yeah, I mean, obviously, I went off the Trini Kim. Well, that would be a whole different thing. Trini Jason thing from the comics and just develop that into a full thing because I think they make sense as a couple. So I built that into it. And Rocky and Aisha make sense as a couple. Look, like anybody is like, oh my god, you turned Power Rangers into a CW show. Like, sorry, I'm writing a show about teenagers. I'm going to have them act like teenagers. And if you don't think a bunch of good-looking people, teenagers together, are not all just going to try and screw each other, you know, you don't really live in the real world. And if you're going to ground Power Rangers in any way, that's what's going to happen. So, yeah. It is what it is. And I missed the announcement, didn't I? Yeah. It's basically it's going to be an original superhero teen drama show, but it's the twist on it is it's going to be a story about gay characters. Are going to be there's going to be straight characters as well, but it's going to be primarily based on gay characters. It's going to be kind of a Heartstopper or Love Simon meets X-Men or Chronicle or something. And I hope people enjoy that. So I think every show I have done podcasting for so many years. I did podcasting since 2008, where I did a show where I talked about pro wrestling, which has evolved into the fantasy shows that I do now. But there are hundreds and hundreds of shows that do that. So we only got so far because you're shouting into a void, and so many people have so many options for that. Most of the time, with the people who are actually there, in that genre's case nowadays. The reason our shows have become popular, I think, is because nobody else is doing them. The reason X-Men became popular is because nobody's making an X-Men show that follows the comics and adapts them so faithfully. The reason Power Rangers become popular is nobody else is doing a Boom Studios style Power Rangers reboot where it's slightly more adult, but still with that sort of Marvel 12A PG-13 realm. Just making it all ages rather than just for kids. And yes, bringing in adult stuff and having people swear and sleep together. But again, that's just once you aim it for that teenage audience and make the characters more realistic humans, that becomes with the territory. I know the show is doing that, so I think that's why our shows are popular. And I think that that's why I want the original show to have this angle, because again, I'm part of that community as a bisexual man myself, and I think it's important. I've got friends in all various areas of that community, and I really enjoy the shows that do that. So I think it is important for us to have a show that represents us, not as the supporting characters, but as the main characters. And I think, and at the end of the day, so long as the character relationships are primary focus, and it's not the gay superhero show, it's the superhero show where the characters happen to be gay. That's the difference. So, yeah, I had fun too, Tony. Thank you. Any SPD stuff going to make it in? If so, let me know. I'll do Doggy Kruger. Yeah. Maybe at some point. That should be fun. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Oh, hang on, we've got some more questions coming in. Every time I go to wrap up, so it's something. You keep doing it, I'll keep going. If you're just joining, and you want to know something, just keep asking questions, and I'll keep on until it gets too ridiculously late. Papa Torres, question about Betsy in the series. Would it be Caucasian to Asian transformation? Or whatever biracial Betsy is away with? She could go from Ninja Psylocke without a body switch into Quan Yin. Don't know necessarily. I in the first episode, I only address her as being English. I don't get into the ethnicity because it's not really necessary. The Quan Yin thing is kind of needlessly complicated. But it's also kind of an important part of the character. So again, it's one of those things of if I want her to just be British but also Asian, fantastic. There's no reason why she can't be, why she has to switch with Quan Yin, because it's just most of the time what I'll do is I'll read the comics and decide, okay, this is necessary, this isn't necessary, and go from there. And I need to reread those to go, okay, how much of this is necessary to the character and how much of it is just because the artist wanted to draw her differently. So yeah. All right then. So pretty much just sitting in silence waiting for the chat now. So I will wrap it up. Thank you for listening to this ramblingness. We'll do it again. Like I say, other than editing and writing, I can't put anything out right now, and I want to keep this channel and this community active. So if you want to stay active, you want to keep up to date, follow me at Cypher Podcast on Twitter. or Sci-Fi Audio Dramas on Facebook. If you ask on there, you'll get a link to the Discord where you can chat with the cast and the fans there. And if you want to, you can be part of the development of the new show. As anybody who's asking wants to be, is being, let into the room. I don't always take everything on board, but I will listen to every opinions and get a happy medium in the middle. Okay, thank you everybody for joining me for this one, and we shall see you next time.